All right, Joe, we are live. Joe, thank you so much for coming on today, man. I really appreciate it for coming
Absolutely.
on. I want to let the audience know that, when I first saw you, it was out on another video conferencing call, and you were doing an interview with some people in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and you were talking about some things that you stand for. And what I really like is how you talked about not only your conservative values, but election reform. And you told a story about election reform. And I'm gonna let you go into that here in a second. But I believe that that's two things that we can all unite on in our country. It doesn't matter what party we belong to. Conservative values, I believe, know no party, and election reform knows no party. And I think that you're brave enough to talk about it. So I want to give you that opportunity there. So tell me a little bit about yourself and and your organization, Conservative Daily. Isn't that right?
Yes. So I'm getting some feedback. Are you getting that feedback too? Or are you okay?
I'm okay.
All right. So I was a tech CEO I built my company on a cocktail napkin over 9 years. I'm kind of one of the unlikely people to enter this because although I had done things on the peripheral as far as having to do with politics, more having to do with people than politics, I think it is not a place that I've wanted to hang my hat. And if it didn't have to do if it wasn't for the pandemic, I never would have gotten to the place that I am right now, in that place of standing up for people inside the community, which is what I've done. So when I got involved in the election integrity issue, it was because last March, we obviously know what they did. They took the Constitution, balled it up, threw it in the trash,
Right.
and said that the virus only existed in small to medium businesses, and that you were safe to go, or you could go and shop at King Soopers or Walmart or these places, but that we weren't responsible as people in our own communities to take care and create safe environments for our customers and for our neighbors. And I really had a problem with that, so I got involved in the reopen movement across the country.
Right.
I started it in Colorado and helped in a couple other states to get it started there. And from there, I started having people write bad things about me. They were Antifa journalists. We know what BLM and Antifa did in our communities.
Right.
And I'm one of the guys that when you take a shot at me or you attack me, I've never seen a fight that I was willing to walk away from. I've never started a fight, but I'm not willing to walk away from a fight. And I think that BLM and Antifa are nothing but radical leftist Marxist terrorists. And I think we have to call them what they are. They're liars. They're everything that they say that they're trying to protect the community from. They are the fascists.
Mm-hmm.
And so as they started writing things about me, I ended up getting on a call in September with Antifa, looking to find and uncover Antifa activist journalists. And because I built this organization called FEC United, it's Faith, Education, and Commerce. We've now become a national organization. We got almost a couple 100,000 members. We're growing rapidly by 400 to 600 people a day. Matter of fact, on Facebook, you can't put fecunited.com because it says it goes against their terms of service, because they're trying to do everything they can to silence us as people.
It's interesting when I logged on to Facebook and I tried to find your page, Conservative Daily. When I clicked like, I got a Facebook warning that said that it's not content they approve of. And so I had to override and say, yes, I do want to follow this page.
Yeah, and they're also unliking the page from people in the community. They're literally going through and unliking the page. And so we've had multiple people that come to us and says, look, Joe, I can't, I liked your page. I've been following your page. I stopped getting notifications, or I never get notifications. They're shadow banning us. They're doing everything they can to stop the message from getting out. We built a live platform on Conservative Daily on our website specifically. And we've done as much as we can to push that message out. And I have to tell you that the amount of success that we've had across the across platforms, I think that I.
Oh no, I'm still here.
All right.
The audio is keeping up perfectly.
Okay.
The video kind of stops for 1 second.
Okay. So the amount of success that we're having in growing this large group, we were just talking to the FEC United pro tem president, and I said, look, I want to have 50 million members in FEC United by the end of March 2022, and I think we can get there very easily.
Yeah.
But we have Facebook and other platforms that have weaponized themselves against us. We have this Antifa, radical leftist movement, this group that is deathly afraid of us. And the reason is I'll just kind of go to Galatians 4:16, which is, have I become the enemy because I tell you the truth? You do not try to cut the tongue out of somebody's mouth who is lying. You cut the tongue, or you cut the tongue out of someone who's telling the truth. When you're looking to do this Antifa, I don't know what's happening with my computer, but I think somebody's messing with it. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Did you see that? Wow.
What happened?
I don't know. Could you hear me that whole time?
I could hear. I could. You said something happened, and then you asked, "Did you see what happened?" And somebody said, "Wow."
Well, my computer literally went dark on me. It is as if somebody shut down my screen. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. It's probably just the computer just acting up. But
well, you know, what's interesting is, like, even though Facebook does that, it's almost like you have to use them and other sources. So I put all my videos on several different platforms, and I put my podcast on other. So that way, if somebody can't see me, they can hear me, and I do it multiple ways for that reason. Yes. So you said you want FEC to be 50 million people, you said.
Yeah, so I think that we have to replace things like the Chamber of Commerce, which is a Marxist organization designed to weaken the constitution of small to medium businesses in their community. And if you remember the Time magazine article, where they basically said that they fortified the election against President Trump, going against the voice of the American people. And so as I got on that call with Antifa, and as I started figuring out things about Eric Coomer, the director of security and strategy for Dominion Voting Systems, I was able to also dig into later on, after I figured out what kind of call and what information was divulged on that call. I was able to dig into what's going with Dominion, and not just Dominion, but ES&S, Smartmatic, and some of these other electronic voting machines that they're highly vulnerable. They're built to be manipulated, and they're built to basically have this small group of people infiltrate and reign over the American people. That the voice of the American people does not matter using these systems, and that the liars in our government, which has been highly compromised, like our government at every level is compromised. That they don't care about what you say. Just pay them as much tax money as you can, and they'll take as much as they possibly can from you. They'll tax you in every different way. They'll take that money, feed themselves, and put you back on the plantation as a slave. It doesn't matter what race you are to the radical left, right? They use race or racism as a dog whistle. They use equity instead of equality. Yeah, so it's designed to weaken us as people, make us divided and fighting each other, so that they can just continue to take meat off the bone while they leave scraps for the rest of us. And this is an elitist environment. So this is what the elitists do. They don't want to solve problems. They create environments. If you just look at what the Democrats have done across this nation, they have created some of the most vile cities, not just in America, but across the globe, right? We have a lot of things to be proud of as Americans, none of which evolve around any Democrat-controlled city. None. There's not one Democrat-controlled city that you could pin in and say they've done great things for the homeless, great things for the impoverished, great things for education. Now they want to replace math and science and all the key things that are important to our community, and by the way, feed their elitists that information, but not give that same opportunity index, as I like to call it, to those most vulnerable.
It's like they feed food scraps so those people under the table to be able to control them, to keep them under the table while they're eating on top of the table, basically all the good stuff. And basically they're using the narratives to control people and keep them down there.
Yeah, and look, I'm not one to mince words. I'm not one to sit here and tell you that we have anyone to blame but ourselves. You know, we talk about the Mockingbird media that started, a couple of decades ago in the CIA and the FBI. I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all. This is factual information. And now those same people that have fed all these lies through CNN and MSNBC, and even some of the local networks, they're now not hiding. They're not hiding anymore the communist agenda or
they're just outright telling us.
I mean, look, the voting system is designed to be a false front. The voting system is designed to make you feel like you have a voice, like you feel you have freedom, but you don't have freedom. Censorship, taking away the First Amendment, the Second Amendment being constantly under attack, the Fourth Amendment, right? I mean, we can go down the line. It's just a matter of time until they've dismantled the Constitution. And we have to make a decision holistically and recognize as people, Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter, that we are dealing with a massive amount of fraud and corruption at every level. Every part of our government is compromised. The judiciary is compromised.
They're trying to make people feel like their votes don't matter, and they're trying to do not just with election fraud, but they're trying to make big notice of that with the election fraud. And I like to tell people all the time on my show, I said, look, whether you think your vote really matters or not, they know who voted and they know how you voted. So the best thing you can do is, even if you think that your vote doesn't matter, even if you think it's rigged, go vote, because by more people voting, they know what they can get away with and what they can't get away with.
Right. And frankly, I will tell you that it's not even just the vote that is the problem. It's not a vote that's the problem. It's the lack of accountability in every sector of our government. The fact they can give money to illegals and have open borders and teach gender fluidity and critical race theory. Look, my dad is black. My mom is white. My whole family is interracial. My brother was murdered by a police officer on August 6, 2017. I am all for accountability. Yeah. So you can't tell me, and I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. I understand 100% the angst that people feel when the police pull up, right? I understand what racial inequality looks like. I understand what being oppressed and what racism looks like. But I also understand that it's not a majority of Americans that are racist, not a majority of Americans that do bad things. It's a small group of people that they want to let loose on our society, while making sure that they can teach people in those inner cities, make it very difficult for them to reach any sort of success, make it almost impossible, take away hope from those people.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I always talk about the Civil Rights Act. Wasn't necessarily for black people. What the laws and the regulations that came out of it have impoverished not only more black people, but more Americans in general that were susceptible to those rules and those different regulations that came out with different laws, as I say, that came out of the Civil Rights Act. And that's just part of the puzzle that they've used to be able to sequester people, keep them down, keep them from succeeding, and therefore make them more reliant on government.
Yeah, and here's the thing. The biggest part, the thing that I faced when I was younger, who the biggest impediment was to success and opportunity for my family, and I'm one of 8 kids. You know what the biggest impediment was?
What is that?
White liberals.
Yeah.
And what do we face right now with this Antifa trash bags that we have to deal with? And by the way, they are complete trash, and I am not going to apologize for it. I am from the south side of heaven, right? So I am all for. I'm a Christian conservative. I stand up for my values. I am not afraid to fight. And everyone says, "Oh, they're a tough guy until bullets fly." I've been in that environment as well too. But I'm going to tell you, these white liberals, these people that are frankly, they're demons, that want to stand up and take away opportunity and weaken people's constitution, make excuses for why people aren't successful. Well, the real thing that's happening in their community is they're being suppressed and undermined by white liberals, by white aristocrats, by white people in positions of power and authority. And then we are creating traitors in the black community, traitors in the Hispanic community, traitors in the minority communities that are standing against the better interests of blacks, Hispanics, or any minority for that matter, making excuses on why you can't be successful and then blaming it on white people. Mm-hmm. And more specifically, conservatives. And look, this is going to be sharp as a knife. I'm going to tell you right now. Go to New York City, go to LA, go to any of these cities that are run by Democrats, and tell me where the Republicans are. Tell me where the conservatives are that are causing all the pain. Because guess what? They don't exist.
They're not even there.
They're not there. So please tell me what's happening in these cities and how it could be related to Donald Trump, how it could be related to anyone in any of the communities that have basically propped up and spent more money per dollar. Conservatives get more money at a rate of 74% of the donations out there are given by conservatives versus these leftist loony liberals.
I'm watching it in my own city. My
Uh-huh.
city, this city, I'm in the suburbs of the city of New Orleans, and you can go down to New Orleans. But when I go do my radio show downtown, there are tent cities right where people come into our city. There's thousands of tents. There's thousands of people walking around. It's absolutely horrible. Look, they allow them to set up like living rooms and bedrooms all underneath this overpasses. It's amazing. And also, to your point, I have a good friend who's been a victim, a black friend of mine that's been a victim of white liberalism. So I completely understand what you're saying.
The cancel culture, the attack, the bullying, the throwing water bottles, the homelessness, the letting drugs just permeate our society is all designed by white liberals. You want to know what the problem is? You want to know what the demon is in our country? The demon in our country are white liberals. I will tell you 100%. And they are muling along people that are minorities in that environment. And I've seen it adversely affect my environment, my family. I've seen it hurt brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, all get sucked into this idea that somewhere along the line, the demon is the other white guy, right? Not the white people that are walking through the streets, burning and looting and stealing and saying, look, you don't get access to adequate education because all we care about is creating a job farm for activists inside the inner city who are going to teach you less about math and science because those things are racist, less about history, and more about gender fluidity so that they can actually recruit
and more about CRT.
Yeah, critical race theory. So the whole thing, the gig is up. We've all figured it out. We all know what they are. We need to stop. We need to stop this thing that the election system was safe. We know it's not safe. What came out of Maricopa County? Everything that the left does is daze, confuse, and all right, just stay in your lane. We're going to talk about this one problem, which is critical race theory. This one problem, which is gender fluidity. This one problem, which is election integrity, right? Let's get to the very meat of it. Let's get to the foundation of it. And everything is rotten to the core. Everything that the liberals touch is rotten to the core. Everything that they have done up to this point has been to destroy and debilitate minority communities specifically, right? All of it. And the FBI,
and what's interesting,
CIA, and our judicial system is 100% complicit in that behavior.
And what's interesting is that they've controlled the narrative enough to continue to blame people to look over there with that shiny object over there while they themselves get away with what they're blaming other people on. So how did your mission, did it start with COVID or did it start with the election? How is it that you know about a different election fraud and what happened in the last election?
Look, once you take shots at me, so Eric Coomer sued me in December. I was one of the few people that says, look, I'm not going to stop talking about the guy. I was sure that it was the guy when I started doing the information back in September and checking it long before the election. I didn't know what Dominion voting system was, right? I didn't know. I didn't know it was in 40 states. I didn't know they were in nearly 28 states fully. Excuse me. I didn't know any of that information. But I found out later when somebody brought up his name, I'd done the research, who he was. Once he sued me, then I was like, okay, it's on. You want to sue me for defamation for telling the truth? All right, let's go. So I started doing even more research on Dominion voting systems. I started doing an analysis of their operating system, mostly based on the RFPs and the information they have across the country, the manuals I got myself access to, the different people that worked for Dominion voting system that were able to divulge information to me, people that had worked for Dominion voting system that could tell me about how both Eric Coomer and others within their organization operate, what the ethos or culture of the organization was. So I was able to do that. And then I had to put together a schematic, and I called a bunch of people in Washington, and I was like, look, I know exactly how they stole the election. Let me show you what the system is designed to do, right? And I'm a math guy, so they can say whatever they want, right? But you can't fool a guy that's in the middle of building AI machine learning and understands portability of data and how you can move data from one side to the other, how you can suspend information where you can't see it, how you can then bring that data back in and attach it to information, and it would look like it had never even been there. I already knew how to do it. So it was easy for me to find it, right? And some of the theories that have come out there where, that China's doing this and England's doing this, a lot of that stuff I wouldn't debunk it, but I would say it's not necessary. You don't necessarily have to do that. So after sitting in rooms and going through information and going to the Secretary of State's office at the State Department and being vetted by multiple people just to make sure that what I said was accurate, I got an opportunity to to debrief lots of people on the election fraud. I built out all the models of how they actually stole the election. And lo and behold, they now know where the bodies are buried, so they know where to look for them. That's what's happening in Maricopa County. That's what happened in Michigan. Matt DePerno is an amazing man, by the way, man of courage, man of God. That's what's happening in Fulton County. That's what's happening in Pennsylvania. It's happening in Nevada. All of the data that's coming forward is proving out those models. And frankly, I'm either telepathic or obviously the math of how you build out a system has helped prove.
You actually come from a background of AI and computer industry and technology, right?
Yes.
So what was your background?
So I built my company on a cocktail napkin over 9 years ago. We do first-party data aggregation, one of the largest first-party data aggregators in the nation. We build personas and quality scores.
I'm referring more to what you did before all this.
Before, that's what my company did, right? So,
I got you. Okay.
So we represent big clients, medium-sized clients, small clients all over the nation.
Right.
I would say that I still do it, but I'm no longer the CEO. And I no longer have the ability to be in that role and do it.
I didn't know what the catalyst was. If it was COVID, if it was the election, if it was your research, it was how you found out, about all this stuff that got you in, and that was that your passion. Is that what set your passion on fire to help save this country?
So the passion on fire is people. The passion on fire is. My friends will say that I call everyone brother. I'm like, hey, what's up, brother? How you doing? Like, why do you do that? And they've asked me, why do you do that? And I go, what would you do for your brother? And like, anything. And I go, well, my neighbor, black, white, green, yellow, purple with web feet. I don't care. If I call you brother, it's because I'm willing to go to the mat for you. I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to protect you as my brother. And I mean that in the same way that I would say sister, right? I have a desire to serve those most in need, right? And I'm a guy that I'm a hard target because can't call me a racist, can't call me a homophobe. One of my good friends and business partners, a gay married Jewish father of 2, and we've been good friends for the last 9 years.
Yeah.
So,
the good thing about conservative values, I believe, are that I find that we as conservative minded people are more accepting of people than the liberal mindset is. The liberal mindset is basically, if you don't fall into these categories, we don't like you. Whereas conservatives kind of say, look, live the way you choose to live, be free. We enjoy freedoms. Even if we don't agree with your freedoms, we're gonna support your right to have those freedoms. And that's what conservatism means to me. But what I want to ask you is not only what it means to you, but about your organization, Conservative Daily, because I know we got limited time, and I want to have the opportunity where you can tell my listeners about your conservatism.
Yeah, so conservatism, I adhere to a different type of conservatism. We have Conservative Daily Podcast. We're one of the top political podcasts around the nation. I speak truth. It's a very, very sharp truth. I do indict people for not getting involved and not doing the things that are necessary to preserve our nation. And frankly, using your voice and learning the power of the word no. So when I get up and talk about what's happening in Washington or what's happening in your cities or states, it's all truth. And that's why they hate me. It's not because what I'm saying is untrue. It's because it insults who they are. It indicts who they are. It does so with stuff that they can't dispute. You can't dispute the things that I talk about on inner city and drug use and mental illness, and you can't dispute it. And so
you lived it.
Right. And so that it's I think that my values as a conservative are limit has no consequence. And that we have a constitution for a reason. And so I talk to people about what the constitutional remedies are. And frankly, we think that we have to wait till an election. And it's not true. Once you have a massive amount of fraud or corruption that has shown its ugly head, you can walk in and just throw them out, right? You can just basically show up with 500,000 people and you walk in and they're like, you can't be in here. Yes, I can. You get out. You're fired.
Right.
And they're like, you can't fire me. You committed fraud here. I'm not waiting. I'm not going to go to a judiciary that's compromised. We just saw what happened in Fulton County, right, where they did not throw out the case, that election case. They did not throw out the case based on the principle of the case. They threw it out based on a technicality using an old law, and then the judge ran out.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know the judge is corrupt. So once you know the judge is corrupt, you just show up with 1,000 people in a moving truck and you take all their crap and you throw it out on the street. And you're like, and then when the police show up, say, look, you have an opportunity. I will not back the blue. I will back you. I will back my police force in my community if it stands up for the rule of law.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I will not back the blue in Denver, Colorado, when they say I'm just doing my job, as they unequally apply the law to conservatives and let the looters and the rioters and the people that are destroying and terrorizing the community. No, you're on your own. At that point, you become an enemy of the people, right? Because you are standing up against what is right or wrong. It's really simple. It's either right or it's wrong, right? So we have to get to a place where we operate and speak more courageously, and that we talk about things that are real, and then we throw people out who don't adhere to the rule of law in our country. And frankly, we have that ability.
Yes, we do. As long as we use our hearts, our minds, and our tongue, we can get enough people to listen, show them the things that we can unite on, show them things that work. And look, the Constitution works. It's the one that's held our country together for over 200 years. We need to show them that conservatism works, that our values works, and we got to find ways to get the word of those people to our side so that they stop listening to the narratives that divide us.
100%.
Well, look, Joe, I know you got to go here in a minute. I can talk to you all day long, and I hope to keep this dialogue going for future episodes. Yeah. But do you have any parting words that you'd like to let everybody know?
Yes. Courage is more infectious than fear. Courage is, right? There's a reason why in the Bible it says 365 times, fear not. It does not say 365 times. It doesn't even say 20 times, have fear, right? It doesn't. But it does say fear not. If we live our life by fear, if we're gripped by fear, if we allow them to create propaganda and lie to us and sell it to us as the truth, we will surely perish. We will fall. But if we stand up, if we do what's right, and we stand up for what's right is rarely popular, what's popular is rarely right. If we stand on those principles, then and bring God back to our community, we will surely win every part of this fight, and we will eradicate this evil from our society.
God, Constitution, freedom, and all the and also important are we got to start fighting for election reform, for accurate elections, and also not only accurate elections, but elections that are accessible to people. And we got to show them that election rules don't mean inaccessibility; they mean good, positive results for everybody in our country to preserve all of our freedoms and our religious freedoms too.
Right. We cannot have a fair and free election with these election machines. They need to all be thrown out in the street, lit on fire. And I'm not telling people to go do that. I'm just telling you right now that there is no integrity in an election system where it's a black box and you don't have full transparency. They've proven by saying that they don't want to do audits, that their systems are fraudulent. They've proven by saying that, hey, you just need to trust us, that they are treating us like slaves and sharecroppers. It is time to stand up. It is time to take a stand. It is time to 100% finally say we've had enough, and not just in words, but in action.
That's right. Joe, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
All right. God bless you, and God bless you.
God bless you. I'll be in touch with you and your team soon. All right.
Sounds good. Take care.
Thank you.